Hello, everyone. This is Glenn Guyton, your Generations in the Workplace speaker, diversity and inclusion expert, workplace trainer, and overall nice guy. I hope you think that I'm a nice guy. But if you don't, then just exit out of this. You don't have to listen to me. But I want to talk to you today about generations in the workplace. In particular, I am so excited about this new generation that is coming up. That's Generation Z. And you know why I am excited about Generation Z? Well, because Generation Z are people, depending on how you look up the data, but Generation Z starts with kids born in 1997. Some say 1995, but let's go 1997. Why? Because that's when my daughter was born. Yes, I'm Gen X and proud of it. Proud to be a Gen X parent. And finally, my spawn, my children, the fruit of my labor, they have finally entered the workplace. Some of them are still in college, but many Gen Zs are, the very beginning of them, or they're entering the workforce, depending on if they went to college or not. And so we have Gen Z. So millennials, you better watch out. You better watch out. You better not shout. You better get ready. I'm telling you why. Gen Z is coming to town. I feel like shouting like The Rock. I don't know if you all are familiar with The Rock, but The Rock would used to say, finally, The Rock has returned. And finally, Gen Z is entering the workplace. And I'm so excited about this generation. I don't know if you are excited about the generation, but I'm excited about this generation. I come from Gen X. We are a smaller generation, but this generation is going to be kind of small too. But hey, let's talk about Gen Z in the workplace. What can we expect? I was looking at this article. So who is a millennial and who is a Gen Z? See here, they say 1995. The borders of any generation are always questionable. So 95, 97 are the people that we're talking about when we are thinking about Gen Z. And they are different from millennials. They are very different from millennials. And so they think different. They are formed differently. As I speak across the country, as I talk to college students, and I listen to the concerns of millennials, I listen to the concerns of the younger generation. What was happening when you were like in elementary school, or when you were began to be aware of things in middle school. Those things are very formative. And if you look at the millennials, they had a lot of trauma, right? 2001 economic downfall, 9/11, all those things started to cycle through during those times, the housing bust. And so they grew up with a lot of anxiety. What anxiety do my kids have, or the Gen Z kids have? Well, thanks to Greta Thunberg, it's not her fault, but thanks to climate change is a big question for them. Pollution, single-use plastics are some of the issues they're worried about. Education, the ability to find a job. Look at that. You see that the ability to find a job is a big deal. What's gonna happen? The cost of education, look, 16%. That's why Elizabeth Warren and Bernie are all doing well. So if you are a business owner, these are the things that people are concerned about. Jobs, right? Jobs. Is there going to be a job for me? Is there going to be stability? Gen Zs want stability, maybe even more than millennials. Millennials hopped around a lot, had these kind of pay-as-you-go jobs. But Gen Z, they are saying they want some stability. They're worried about jobs. They are worried about the cost of education. If you want to provide incentives to get workers in this time of scarcity, I would say think about some alternatives to training. How are you training your workers? They don't want to get an enormous amount of college debt, and you don't want them to have an enormous amount of college debt. Find creative ways of providing education and training for your workforce. That will give them a sense of loyalty, which eases that fear of, can I find a job? And it'll also ease the fear of paying for the cost of education. The other thing, healthcare. So all the things that are in politics right now, right? That's what the Gen Z people are concerned about. And I'm sure all of us are concerned about these things, but I just wanted to give you a little insight based on some of this research of what's what's happening. Financial stability. So I think there's a lot of anxiety with millennials, and again with some of the people that you think about in the later generation, just because they've grown up in a time of great turmoil in our nation. You know, you have Barack Obama was the first African American president, and then now you have Donald Trump, and it's an interesting contrast in styles and communication, the utilization of authority figures using Twitter and things in a different way, and people being more polarized, or at least the articulation of polarization has risen to a new level. People have probably always been polarized, but now we have different forms for that polarization to manifest itself, and we have the leader of the free world very much engaged in social media in a much different way. So that provides some anxiety for people, and our younger generations are very much consumers. I didn't really watch a lot of news when I was in high school and things like that, but my kids did. You know, we watched Lester Holt all the time. That's one of the things me and my kids like to do, watch NBC News. And so they were very much engaged. You have activists like Greta Thunberg. She's really engaged to be as young as she is about climate change. And so this new generation is very conscious. I would say that millennials were conscious too, but maybe in a different way. This is just my personal opinion. I think being a parent of being the child of Gen Xers, there's a little bit more practicalities to some of the activism that the Gen Z people are involved in, whereas being the kids of hippies, you know, like the hippie generation, millennials are a little bit more idealistic in some of their outreach and activism. But that will make a big difference for us as we think about the workplace. So what do they think? Here's a chart. You can see the website on this video. I didn't create this chart, but I thought it was a good resource. It's something interesting for us to talk about today when we think about generations in the workplace and how that impacts diversity, equity, inclusion. Those are all very important things to this generation, and we have to be aware of it as leaders, as business owners, as educators. People in the private and public sector need to be aware of this new generation. Financial stability, again, securing a dream job. You think the difference between millennials and this generation. Top overall 3 aspirations for the next 3 years. Gen Z wants to find a dream job. They all want to be bloggers, right? They all want to be influencers. Millennials want financial stability. Why? Because they're getting old, right? Millennials are getting old. They're like in their 30s. Some of them are pushing 40. What was it, 1980? Yeah, so some of them are pushing 40, right? Y'all are old millennials. So stop talking about millennials like they're babies. They're middle-aged people working hard. They have families. They have kids. They don't have time to hashtag as much now. They got to get a job. They got to feed those families. They got to pay off those college debts. So they're worried about financial stability now. And so now you have a new generation coming into the workplace, and they want to engage the world a little bit differently than millennials. I think they're going to be a little bit more driven than millennials. They're really tech savvy. My kids don't really go to the store. They order everything online. They get everything delivered to the house. I think that's very representative of this new generation. The online consumption of goods and services is going to be very big, and we need to think about that not only from a talent acquisition standpoint, but we need to think about that from the standpoint of our products and how we make them available. Even like car dealerships have changed now. You can just go to Carvana. You can order your car online. And I think that's very much moved in line how this new generation has been formed. And so how do they find their jobs? 30% of them find their jobs online. And people in HR, talent recruiters, I'm sure you already know that. You've been using that for a while, but it's only going to become more competitive for people to find jobs in positions like that. I am really interested that it's only 8 to 18% say personal networking and friends is how they find jobs. Most of them, close to 61% of them find jobs through these other connections. And so maybe the good old boy network or the friendship network won't be as significant as it has been in the past. And so if we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion with this new group, we need to, first of all, make sure we're posting things in a way that people can find your job listings. And then we need to think about the colleges and educational places that we go and look for jobs. We want to not just go to the the pedigree type of organizations, but maybe we want to look at some of the historical black colleges and universities, or smaller universities, places where we wouldn't typically go to find talent, because there is talent out there. And with a shrinking talent pool, we want to make sure we're uncovering those gems, those untapped resources that are available to us. So let's look into some different places, the traditional universities and places that we've looked before may not be as fruitful as they were in the past. If you are in the educational realm, look at this. Pay attention to this right here, right now. 38% of Gen Zers believe their college is doing a good job in preparing them for a career, compared to 28% of millennials. So even as we think about the degradation of institutions, we have less and less faith in our educational institutions. And something that I really love on here, it says more Gen Zers follow their parents' influence compared to millennials. So hey, don't forget about us extras out there. We still have some influence in what our kids do. Hopefully we aren't involved in college scandals and paying for our kids to go to college illegally or doing anything like that. But don't forget, sometimes you have to connect with families as you interact with these younger generations. Even as you think about reaching out to some different racial ethnic groups, you have to be more in touch with the families. The families are a bigger part of the lives of kids than it was when I'm growing up. I'm 50 years old, and so I was kind of on my own, watching the Thundercats, Latchkey Kid, Hey Gen X, You Gotta Love Us, watching MTV. We were very independent. We turned 18. For the most part, we left home and said, bye, I'm gonna do it my way. But these kids are more likely to, these young adults are more likely to listen to their parents. So that's all I have about these generations in the workplace. I'm just so excited about Gen Z. If you are interested in learning more about diversity, equity, and inclusion, make sure you check me out. Subscribe to this page. Also, hey, don't forget. I'm glad you're here. I'm just so glad I'm so happy that you tuned in today. Well, have a great day. This is Glenn Guyton, keynote speaker, diversity, equity, inclusion trainer. Talk to you later. Have a wonderful day.